اندیشکده علوم و فناوری‌های نرم انقلاب اسلامی تقدیم می‌کند.
The Arabs control $16 billion in this country.
I am a Jew! Hit not the Jew eyes, hit not the Jew hands.
The author, Bart believes, dies but never does what he creates. Therefore, although Shakespeare and Marlowe were both Elizabethan playwrights and they're dead not just in a Bartian sense, one can still look at Merchants of Venice and the Jew of Malta and see how they can relate to the present time. This episode is about two sides of the same coin, about one single phenomenon as reflected in two different authors' viewpoints.
As for myself, I walk abroad o' nights and kill sick people groaning under walls. Sometimes I go about and poison wells. Now and then, to cherish Christian thieves, I am content to lose some of my crowns, that I may, walking in my gallery, see him go pinioned along by my door. Being young, I studied physic and began to practice fast upon the Italian. There I enriched the priests with burials, and always kept the sexton's arms in ewer, with digging graves and ringing dead men's knells.
One can smell traces of anti-Semitism here in Marlowe's work, a fact that may outrage many people. Let us now take a look at US Secretary of State's website and review some definition. Making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews as such, or the power of Jews as a collective, especially but not exclusively the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy or of Jews controlling the media, economy, government, or other societal institutions. The first question that arises here is, has anyone claimed that some Jews actually control societal institutions? And if the answer is positive, are there any substance in what they claim and in turn are put under the category of conspiracy theory? In the Oscar-winning 1976 movie Network, Howard Beale, the mad prophet of the airwaves, becomes consumed with the idea of exposing an insidious danger facing America, the takeover of American television by Arabs through their petrodollars.
We all know that the Arabs control $16 billion in this country.
The film was based on an Oscar-winning screenplay by Paddy Chayefsky, who depicts a dark plot by Arabs to buy and control the TV networks. Howard Beale, played by Peter Finch, is a deranged news anchorman who speaks his mind about any subject, resulting in skyrocketing ratings. Raving about inequities and corruption in American life, Beale would cry out,
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
The worst nightmare of Paddy Chayefsky and his network character Howard Beale has been realized. A small but cohesive minority with a 3,000-year loyalty to their own people dominates the media. But it is not the Arabs who have this power, nor is it the Irish, Germans, French, English, Russians, Swedes, Danes, or Italians. It's not Muslims, Christians, Mormons, or Catholics. Ironically, it is the group made up of the Paddy Chayefskys of the world. Chayefsky, himself a Jew and an enthusiastic supporter of Jewish causes, cleverly attempts to influence viewers against Arabs by fictionally accusing them of attempting the same thing that Jews have already accomplished. It is certainly true that many people in media are not Jews, but the overwhelming domination and thrust of American media is Jewish and no group is more ethnocentric and more organized for their perceived interests than are Jews. With these facts in mind, can any reasonable person believe that Jews present news and entertainment without a slant for their own purposes through what Gabler calls an empire of their own? Jewish advertising power not only has increased the Jewish monopolization and consolidation of American newspapers, it also greatly affects publications with Gentile management or ownership. All major publications are dependent on Jewish advertising revenue, so their features, reporting, and editorial policies must be carefully attuned to Jewish attitudes and interests. Ultimately, the free press is not free. It runs on money. The old axiom certainly holds true in the media. He who pays the piper calls the tune. The Jewish domination of American media is long-standing. Even as far back as the 1920s, Jews had influence far disproportionate to their percentage of the population, and even though media operations frequently change hands and the CEOs, chairmen, administrators and top editors change, Jewish domination is stronger than ever, and the power brokers continue to increase and consolidate their power. Now, in order to escape the title conspiracy theory, let us simply Google list of Jewish American business people. The very first web link offered is this: 6 giants of newspapers and publishing, and 34 giants of TV, film and radio among them. This is borrowing Zizek's phrase media supremacism at its purest. Not only do the Jews have immense power in media through ownership and through key positions of control in production, management, hiring, editorship and writing, they also have key watchdog groups that monitor all major publications and public figures for any evidence of opposition to Jewish supremacism. One of these multi-million-dollar international organizations is called the Anti-Defamation League. Any person who dares to speak freely is liable to run afoul of this organization that can destroy the career of almost anyone it deems a threat. The ADL also monitors every conceivable source of information available to the public, attempting to suppress anything it sees as harmful to Jewish public relations. One of its enterprises was the development of an internet filter for individuals, libraries, and educational institutions. Quote, through its 31 offices across the country, the ADL monitors school curricula, library acquisition lists, and public conferences and symposiums, working behind the scenes to stifle intellectual freedom. Unquote. All this dominance, with only 2.5% of the whole population, is definitely not only the media, which is the epitome of disproportionate involvement of poor Jews. Admiral Thomas Maurer, former chairman of the US Joint Chiefs of Staff, once said, quote, I've never seen a president, I don't care who he is, stand up to the Jews. They always get what they want. If the American people understood what a grip these people have got on our government, they would rise up in arms. Unquote. One needs not go any further than a simple Googling to come up with this rather long list of Jews at the core of political affairs. Any further remark on this topic should lead to an unavoidable gaining of the title conspiracy theory. Add to all this the massive financial support these Jews enjoy throughout the world. Again, through a simple search, we come up with this webpage. Under Financial Services, a long list of Jews in charge of big financial institutions appears, amongst them Goldman Sachs. Even when businessmen act perfectly legally, a cohesive and powerful team effort will consistently amass collective power over a scattered and individualistic mass. Such is the nature of business. When the team's strategy is combined with inside information garnered by Jewish penetration into upper-level administrative roles in government and businesses, the accumulation of incredible power is inevitable. Is it any wonder that a thoughtful Christian such as Saint Thomas Aquinas, who was considered a great exponent of love and charity, would also speak out against the Jewish practice of usury? The Jews should not be allowed to keep what they have obtained from others by usury. It were best that they were compelled to work so that they could earn their living instead of doing nothing but becoming avaricious. With all this in mind, maybe it is not altogether illogical to translate Marlowe's "Sometimes I go about and poison wells" into Jewish supremacism. For those who still want to think Jewish supremacism is a phenomenon of ancient biblical times, read the following words of Dr. Stephen Steinlight, one of the leading Jews in America, who wrote these comments in October of 2001. He served for 5 years as the Director of National Affairs, Domestic Policy in the most powerful and respected Jewish organization in the United States, the American Jewish Committee. Quote, "I'll confess it, at least like thousands of other typical Jewish kids of my generation, I was reared as a Jewish nationalist, even a quasi-separatist. Every summer for 2 months, for 10 formative years, during my childhood and adolescence, I attended Jewish summer camp. More tacitly and subconsciously, I was taught the superiority of my people to the Gentiles who had oppressed us, who were taught to view non-Jews as untrustworthy outsiders, people from whom sudden gusts of hatred might be anticipated, people less sensitive, intelligent, and moral than ourselves." Unquote. The interesting point is that if all the information presented in this episode is available on the internet, why is it that even mentioning it would lead to the consequences described in the previous episode? It seems that anti-Semitism is a complex mechanism which paves the way for some special people to enjoy some privileges on the one hand, on the other, blocks all criticism altogether. More than that, the term seems to be an apt cover under which to play victim, an idea which is more than clear in Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice when Shylock says,
I am a Jew! Hath not the Jew eyes? Hath not the Jew heads? Organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions, fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer as the Christian is. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? If we are like you in the rest, we will resemble you in that. If a Jew wrong a Christian, what is his humility, revenge? If a Christian wrong a Jew, what should his sufferance be by Christian example? Why? Revenge! The villainy you teach me, I will execute, and it shall go hard, but I will better the instruction.
Apparently, the current meaning of anti-Semitism attempts not only to prevent Marlowe's from divulging some people's corruption, but also to endorse their playing victims legally in an effort to suppress such words as Shakespeare's. Bearing in mind the scale and scope of the whole mechanism, it barely seems logical to assume that the ones who benefit from all this are Jews and Jews only. Do not lose the next episode to find out this umbrella term for the sake of whose adherence those restrictive labels seem to have been coined.